Yeah, pure persuasion, yeah. That's a great question. This is a very general question in terms of just psychology in general. How do you avoid the influences of peer pressure? What I'm saying when it comes to this topic is, while peer pressure in our Jewish community helps us remain Jewish even when it's tough, but Baruch Hashem, when we step back and look at it objectively, we see how true it is. So it's actually something that enhances us. Peer pressure can be a good thing, as I'm sure you're aware. At times, peer pressure can keep you on the straight and narrow, can keep you from doing something bad, because hopefully you surround yourself with good friends who raise you up instead of bring you down with negative peer pressure. Now, what if you're in a situation where your peers are doing bad things, and it's a practical type of question? Obviously, every situation is more personal and specific, and we can talk one-on-one, but in general, the idea is to try your best to have multiple groups of friends, where you're not just bound to one specific group, to have mentors that you can speak things out with. So if you have a Rebbe, a Mashgiach, a mentor, a parent that you can go to and say, hey, I was thinking about this thing with my friends, what do you think? And hearing things from adults, from other people's perspectives, sometimes that itself is part of trying your best in life, hearing other people's opinions and getting help from others. That's oftentimes a very strong koach, a strong power to help you not just succumb to peer pressure when at the times that it surrounds you. But it's important to try to avoid it because of its power. To try to surround yourself with positive, good people who raise you up with peer pressure instead of bring you down. Does that make sense? Okay, so the question that's being asked here is that when we discussed some theorists who want to say, oh, Maamin Har Sinai happened because they all hallucinated the same thing. Let's be clear. The point that I made was a sugar coating on top of the main answer. The answer to that is everything that we said before that, which is for such a revelation to get off the ground. In other words, you can ask the question in another way. A lot of times I get this question. Maybe Moshe Rabbeinu was the world's greatest magician that ever lived, and he was able to pull it off, but no one else could. So just let's think about the statistical chance again. Why, if there was such a thing as magic and black magic and these things in those times, if there was such a thing, which it seems that there was something like that, why would it be that there was only one time in history that it was able to be pulled off to this extent? The natural world, when we don't get into the supernatural, I mean beyond what human beings can do, right? If there's such a thing as magic, it doesn't make sense that only one person in the history of mankind could have access to it. It would make much more sense that multiple people could, and we see that seems to be true. Why would it be that there was only one time in history that an entire nation of people were able to be led astray? I just heard also in that Torah Masorah series, Emuna, they brought from Rabbi Weinberg, that you see in last week's Parsha, Korach, by Korach, Klal Yisrael saw unbelievable miracles, the ground opening up in multiple spots according to the Medrash, and yet they said to Moshe Rabbeinu, what are you doing? You're killing the nation. They didn't just accept, they were an extremely critical nation of such things. But here it was obvious to them that it was the Ribbono Shel Olam himself appearing. So before I get exactly to the point that you're raising, which I'm going to get to in a second, I want to just make it clear. The idea that such a thing happened, if you need to come to really unique, novel explanations for it, that would have to be the only time in history that something like that ever happened. That in of itself gives you the credibility advantage of Judaism over any other option, mathematically, right then and there. Now, as far as this option of maybe they hallucinated, and couldn't it be that they would hallucinate the same thing? Hallucinations are not just built on the room and then something slightly different. And even if they are, so imagine I look at that light and I see it turning purple. Why would it make you see that light over there also turning purple? Why not green? It's very personal. The idea that we're going to both see purple, and we're going to both see something with a head popping out of it, and we're going to both feel a breeze coming from the east, and we're going to each one of those is because of my own brain just making things up through the chemicals. So is it possible? Yeah, but the more vivid it is, the more unlikely that it will be the same thing. But is it possible that they, yeah, of course. And that's the possibility that I'm referring back to. As long as it's possible, they will hold on to it because of that cultural pressure. Unless I could show them with 5 senses, with taste, touch, smell, hearing, seeing, that I could show them like I could knock on that table, Judaism is true, they're not going to drop it. Every once in a while you have a ger who does search for the truth and drops it. But without that, they're not going to. Does that make sense? Absolutely. The question that was asked is an excellent question. And again, it lends itself really into a whole nother lecture, but I'll try to give you a little bit to answer the question for now, and we can have more of a discussion further if you're interested in it. The question that was asked is, how do we understand suffering in the world? Okay, so all this credibility advantage lends tremendous evidence to the idea that Judaism is true, that there's a God, a supernatural being from a supernatural realm who created the world, gave us the Torah, we have a Torah Shebechsav, Torah Shebal Peh, and all the messages and ideology that come from that. But how do we understand the seemingly bad? In other words, it could be asked as Tzaddik V'Ralo. And Rasha V'Tovlo is part of the question you didn't ask, but you can ask that too. Why do we seemingly see injustices in the world happening? How do we answer that? So there are a number of approaches to this question. I think all of them are important, which is why I'm telling you ahead of time, I'm only giving you a little snapshot, but this requires a longer discussion. A couple of points to consider. First of all, we don't always know what's bad and what's good initially. Sometimes something bad could happen, and we ourselves could later in our lives see how it was good. Or my friend once said over this story, imagine a Jewish person standing at the port in Spain in 1492. He's being kicked out of Spain, the Spanish Inquisition. His family's being expelled unjustly. And he sees Christopher Columbus, the harbor was backed up with the Jewish people leaving and Christopher Columbus getting ready to sail to go discover new worlds. Is this fair? He looks up to Ribono Shalom and he says, is this fair that they're going and expanding their empire in the midst of kicking us out? It's unjust. And the Ribono Shalom smiles down. He doesn't say it to us because he wants us to have bechira. He wants us to still be able to choose. And if he appears too much to us, what choice would we have? And we would have no reward, and that's a whole separate discussion in the idea of how schar va'onish works. But Hashem smiles down and says, so to speak, kiviyachol, he says, my Jew that I care so much about, you don't realize in hundreds of years from now, the place that you're going to next, Europe, is going to have its own terrible, tragic churban. It's going to be decimated. And where's the main salvation going to come from for the Jews? The main area and place is going to be America, its army and its lands. And Christopher Columbus was setting sail to discover and begin the process of inhabiting America. North America, ultimately the country, America. And so it was good, but would anybody in their lifetimes ever see it then? No, it took hundreds of years to look back and say, wow, what a blessing that at the time that we were being kicked out of Spain, Hashem was already preparing us to have the next place to go to after Europe when they would choose to destroy us and never succeed, of course. So it's very difficult, one point is to ever know really what's good and what's bad in the large scheme of things. Very difficult to understand. But there's another more mystical idea that I'm not going to get into a lot, but I want to tell you that just today, I was listening to the last video that they have out right now of this Torah Masorah Ve'amunas Kabalelos project, given by Rabbi Avraham Shor. Tremendous person. And he says over, you can't, this is his words, watch it. I'm paraphrasing, so I might not be getting the words exactly, but basically what he says is, you can't have Emuna nowadays without understanding Gilgul, without understanding reincarnation. Now this is a complex topic. The basic idea of what that means is that neshamas are recycled. That means that I myself, meaning my neshama, the body is just like a robot suit that's really complex that I wear in this world. But my neshama, who I am, existed in another body in another time with another mission. And he says, so many questions are answered by that. Because now when you look at the neshama in all of its manifestations, and you see, well, why did that bad thing happen? Maybe it was necessary to happen based on something that happened way before. And the fact that Hashem gives us pain in this world as a way of forgiving, as a way of getting rid of, as kapara, as a way of atoning for bad things we might have done, wrong choices we might have made, is much better to prepare us for full schar and reward in the next world. So now again, this is very complex and mystical and hard for us to really understand, and there's so many questions on this topic that I can't answer. But that it exists is clear in the Ramban, and the Gra elaborates on it greatly. And Rabbi Avram Shor, just today I saw in the video, says it is so important for Emunah because of your question. And the same thing for Rasha V'Tovlo. Why is the bad person getting good things? We don't know the full existence of his lifespan. We don't know exactly what might be good, might not be good in the end. And so We might not even see it in our lifetime, but we will understand. The Gemara tells us, and the Tzlach elaborates on this, that la'asad lavo, when Mashiach comes, la'olam haba, we will make the bracha hatov v'hametiv, meaning something good happen on everything, even those things that we made a dayana emes on, because it will be revealed to us how ultimately it was for the good. Say again? Exactly. That's exactly right. Yes. Very good. So excellent question. And that's at least the beginnings of the answers to those questions. If you want to discuss it further, please come back, okay? All right. Thank you guys so much for coming. Have a great day.
Father, please tell me, help me understand who made what surrounds us, the sky and the land, the water we drink, the air that we breathe. Father, please tell me, what should I believe?